I really enjoy working at the Math Study Center because it's a new challenge every day, and it's very interesting to see that sometimes students come with tears and then they go home happy. So that's what we get rewarded in Math Study Center.
I would say I love problem solving, and it's quite interesting, and I think it's quite amazing being able to solve different kind of questions from different subjects, and even being able to lead people solving their problems. I really enjoy that, and I think for me it's so important to know how we use mathematics in different disciplines, and you get to know all those kind of things because of working with different people from different disciplines with different questions, and it's very interesting to know.
I think one of the fun parts about working in the Math Study Center is that you get to meet a lot of different people from different ages, different backgrounds, they have different goals. And so part of the fun of working in the Math Study Center is actually tailoring your answer to these to the different people asking the questions so that they absorb it easily.
Well, I think that the best part of it is when you see someone walking in with they are really lost and don't know what's going on at all, and then after maybe half an hour, 1 hour, then they walk out with a big smile and knowing that they know how to do something and they are confident with solving this kind of things. So yeah, and a lot of times you can see that they are very grateful that you help them understand something, not only to do an exercise but to understand it.
Oh, it's a wonderful experience to learn new things, and also the satisfaction you get from teaching people rather difficult concepts and seeing them come back saying, you know, hey, I got 10 out of 10 for that pre-lab, thank you.
Depends. Usually they themselves form a sort of a queue. They know that if I'm going to talk to someone, they say that, oh, this person is waiting before myself. So they themselves point to me if I'm just there. But yeah, usually it's a queue.
Actually, I make them sitting in turn, and I try to give each student 15 minutes to answer one question, and then next another one, and so on. This is my best way maybe to do. And finally, I found all students comfortable with this way or with this manner.
Well, it sometimes happens, and I try to ask find first the student, ask what's the problem, and then I go through the question, and I'll try to give them hints to go through the questions, and I leave it to them to think about it, and I move to the next one, and I get back to them again to see how they progress with the solution and the answer. So somehow you can keep them on the track and keep moving or shifting from content.
I tend to ask students who have questions, and I form a mental queue in my head. For the current student, I try to work with them for a bit of time and make sure they have sufficient understanding to continue exploring the question on their own, and then I will move on to the next student immediately.
Normally you first try to find out if some of them have similar doubts. If they do, you sort of get them in a group and try to help them all at once. And other than that, you just try to first of all go one by one and try to give them some sort of hint to start doing the exercise themselves. And if they can solve it by their own, then it's fine. Otherwise, you go back to them and try to get them to do it again.
So, particularly dealing with the chemistry, I find that, you know, I prefer a group-orientated approach. So rather than doing each student individually, I find that there'll be a range of students with a very similar question, and I'll say, hey, look, come around, let's all sit down, we'll work through this together. And that will allow me to serve 3 or 4 different students within the same sitting.
Usually I see that there is a lot of students. What I say to the whole class is, guys, I'm gonna start solving the question of this guy, and if anyone has some rights or whatever, just call me and I'm gonna just try to attend the persons that has more rush first.
When there's a question that I don't know how to answer, I end up learning the solution method with the student. What that means is I would be reading textbooks with them, or I might be reading their lecture notes with them. Although they had access to the lecture notes or the textbooks to start with, it's sometimes not easy to read the mathematical notation and equations, or it's not easy to pick out which parts are relevant for their answer. And so when we do that, on top of learning how to solve their particular problem, they're also seeing how they might approach reading difficult mathematical explanations.
Well, first of all, you tell them like, I'm not an expert in that, so like, don't expect me to, you know, like. But then, yeah, you try to sit with them and try to learn whatever they're doing and try to solve the question with them. And if it's something that's very, very specific from an area that you then, like, you for sure are not going to be able to help them, then you try to refer them to someone who might be able to help them. So, for example, if it's very advanced physics, then I always refer them to the physics tutor, or chemistry as well.
Okay, so being the chemist, the extreme mathematics are not my specialty. However, usually they'll come in with some form of a question or an assignment or a lecture printout, and I'll sit down and try and work through the material which they've brought, so that A, I can see if I can logically deduce the way to help them, and B, to see where they're at. If I'm still not able to be of assistance, I'll usually refer them to a specialist in that area.
Depends maybe of two things. The first one, if there is a lot of students there. If there is a lot of students, I usually try to be more efficient. That means that I will try to focus with the students that need help with one of my areas of expertise, because I can solve it quickly, and then just say the student who is the tutor that is more expert in this area. If there is not many students, I can spend more time with the student. I just sit with him or her and just going through the notes. I will try to understand it and explain it, which is the main idea of how to try to focus the question.